Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's special program covering the latest updates of the 45th GCC Summit, as this summit concludes marking another milestone in the region's pursuit of unity and strategic collaboration. The leaders from the member states gathered in the state of Kuwait yesterday, December the 1st of 2024, to discuss critical issues ranging from economic integration and regional stability to global challenges, particularly those in Palestine, Lebanon, and Syria, as well as technological advancements and climate change. While the summit's final communique emphasized shared priorities and collective efforts to address pressing concerns, including fostering economic diversification, enhancing security cooperation, and strengthening ties with global partners. As part of our comprehensive live coverage, we're bringing you an in-depth analysis of the summit's outcomes and the key messages conveyed in the final communique, featuring exclusive reports, insightful phone calls, and highlights of the summit's most significant moments, including the honorable speeches from the GCC leaders. We're also joined here in the studio with our distinguished guest, academic and political analyst, Dr. Fahd al-Mikrad, who will provide expert commentary on the summit's implications for the region and beyond. Stay tuned for a dynamic and engaging discussion of how this summit shapes the path forward for the Gulf states.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وعلى بركة الله أعلن افتتاح الدورة 45 لمجلس الأعلى لمجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أخواني أصحاب السمو، قادة دولة مجلس التعاون، أصحاب السمو والمعالي والسعادة، الحضور الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يطيب لي في مستهل أعمال الدورة 45 للمجلس الأعلى لمجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية أن أرحب بكم إخوة أعزاء في دولة الكويت، كما يسرني أن أتقدم بجزيل الشكر إلى أخي العزيز صاحب السمو الشيخ تميم بن حمد بن خليفة آل ثاني أمير دولة قطر الشقيقة على إدارته الحكيمة وجهوده المبذولة طيلة ترأس سموه لأعمال الدورة 7. إخواني أصحاب السمو، يجسد جمعنا المبارك الذي تستضيفه دولة الكويت تجسيداً مشرفاً لوحدة الصف ومثالاً مشرقاً لقوة الاتحاد والتلاحم والتكامل، وانعكاساً دقيقاً لإيماننا الراسخ بضرورة تعزيز وتوحيد العمل الخليجي المشترك من أجل مواكبة التحديات الناجمة عن تسارع الأحداث الإقليمية والدولية وانعكاساتها، والارتقاء بمجالات التعاون نحو آفاق أوسع تلبي تطلعات شعوبنا وطموحاتها وتحقق هدفنا المنشود، ألا وهو ضمان ازدهار دولنا في محيط يعمه الأمن والأمان والاستقرار. ونجتمع اليوم في ظل ظروف بالغة التعقيد باتت تلقى بظلالها على الاقتصاد العالمي، مهددة تنمية شعوبنا ورخاؤها، الأمر الذي يتطلب منا تسريع وتيرة عملنا الهادف إلى تحقيق التكامل الاقتصادي الخليجي من خلال توحيد السياسات وتنويع مصادر الدخل غير التقليدية، وتسهيل حركة التجارة والاستثمار، ودعم الصناعات المحلية، وتوسيع قواعد الابتكار وريادة الأعمال، خاصة في المجالات المستحدثة مثل مجالات الذكاء الاصطناعي، وذلك لتعزيز تنافسية اقتصاد بلداننا على الساحتين الإقليمية والدولية. وتنطلق مسيرة عملنا نحو خلق اقتصاد خليجي متكامل مرن، قادر على تلبية تطلعات شبابنا من منطلقات أساسية أهمها التعليم وصقل مواهبهم وشد هممهم نحو المساهمة في تحقيق الاقتصاد الخليجي المتكامل الذي ننشده، وبلوغ طموحاتنا باستدامة نماء ورخاء شعوبنا من خلال ضمان جودة عناصرها البشرية وتنويع مصادر دخل دولنا الشقيقة. إخواني أصحاب السمو، أثبت مجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية منذ انطلاقه في عاصمة دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة الشقيقة أبو ظبي عام 1981 بفكرة من أخي المغفور له بإذن الله تعالى الشيخ جابر الأحمد الجابر الصباح طيب الله ثراه، أن دولنا قادرة من خلال تكاتفها وتلاحمها على تحقيق رخاء شعوبنا وصون استقرارها وتحقيق أمنها. فها هو مجلسنا اليوم وبعد مضي أكثر من 4 عقود من الزمن لا يزال شامخا في وحدته، ثابتا في مواقفه، صلبا في إرادته، صامدا في سعيه لإرساء دعائم الأمن والسلم الدوليين عبر دفاعه عن كافة القضايا العادلة أينما كانت. ومن هذا المنطلق نجدد إدانتنا للاحتلال الإسرائيلي الغاشم على أرض فلسطين المحتلة وللإبادة الجماعية المتعاقبة بحق الشعب الفلسطيني الشقيق، وندعو المجتمع الدولي ومجلس الأمن على وجه الخصوص بممارسة دوره من خلال ضمان تنفيذ كافة قرارات مجلس الأمن ذات الصلة، والوقوف الفوري لإطلاق النار وتوفير الحماية الدولية للمدنيين الأبرياء، وضمان فتح الممرات الآمنة ووصول المساعدات الإنسانية العاجلة. ونؤكد ثبات موقفنا المبدئي التاريخي المساند للشعب الفلسطيني الشقيق في نضاله المشروع لإنهاء الاحتلال الإسرائيلي على أرض فلسطين المحتلة ونيل حقوقه السياسية كافة، وإقامة دولته المستقلة على أرضه في حدود 4 يونيو للعام 1967 وعاصمتها القدس الشرقية وفقاً للمرجعيات والقرارات الدولية ذات الصلة. إخواني أصحاب السمو، نتج عن ازدواجية المعايير في تطبيق القوانين والمواثيق والقرارات الدولية ذات الصلة استهراء الاحتلال الإسرائيلي وزعزعة أمن المنطقة واستقرارها، فها نحن نشهد ما تتعرض له كل من الجمهورية اللبنانية الشقيقة والجمهورية العربية السورية الشقيقة والجمهورية الإسلامية الإيرانية الصديقة من اعتداءات متكررة من قبل قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي. ونجدد دعمنا التام لكافة إسهامات دول المجلس لاستقرار المنطقة، ومنها قيادة المملكة العربية السعودية الشقيقة للجهود الرامية إلى الاعتراف بدولة فلسطين في إطار التحالف الدولي لتنفيذ حل الدولتين، وبالإضافة إلى استضافتها لقمة المتابعة العربية الإسلامية المشتركة، ودور الوساطة الذي تقوم به دولة قطر الشقيقة وجمهورية مصر العربية الشقيقة والولايات المتحدة الأمريكية الصديقة لوقف إطلاق النار في قطاع غزة، مستبشرين خيراً بوقف إطلاق النار على الأراضي اللبنانية، مما يساهم في تخفيض التصعيد في المنطقة. إخواني أصحاب السمو، نشيد بالبوادر الإيجابية البناءة التي عبرت عنها الجمهورية الإسلامية الإيرانية الصديقة نحو مجلس التعاون لدول الخليج العربية، ونتطلع إلى أن تنعكس على الملفات العالقة بين الجمهورية الإسلامية الإيرانية الصديقة ودول المجلس كافة، والارتقاء بمجالات التعاون إلى آفاق أوسع في ظل ميثاق الأمم المتحدة ومواثيق القانون الدولي ومبادئ حسن الجوار واحترام الدول وعدم التدخل في شؤونها الداخلية، وإيمانا بمبدأ حسن الجوار، وإن الحوار ركيزة محورية لتجاوز العقبات والتحديات. نجدد دعوتنا للأشقاء في جمهورية العراق بتصحيح الوضع القانوني لاتفاقية تنظيم الملاحة البحرية في خور عبد الله، واستئناف اجتماعات الفرق الفنية التابعة لها، والعودة إلى العمل وفقا لما نص عليه بروتوكول المبادلة الأمني لعام 2008، واستئناف اجتماعات الفرق الفنية القانونية المشتركة لاستكمال ترسيم الحدود البحرية لما بعد العلامة رقم 162، وذلك وفقا لقواعد القانون الدولي واتفاقية الأمم المتحدة لقانون البحار لعام 1982. ولا يفوتني كذلك التأكيد على تطلعنا إلى دعم إخواننا أصحاب الجلالة والسمو لضمان استمرارية متابعة مجلس الأمن دون غيره من أجهزة الأمم المتحدة لملفي الأسرى والمفقودين والممتلكات الكويتية بما فيها الأرشيف الوطني، وذلك بعد انتهاء ولاية بعثة الأمم المتحدة لمساعدة العراق يونامي. وختاما، نعيد التأكيد على التزامنا باستكمال مسيرة العمل الخليجي المشترك نحو كل ما من شأنه تلبية طموحات شعوبنا وتحقيق تطلعاتها إلى مستقبل مشرق تنعم فيه بالرفعة والنماء والرخاء. وأسأل الله العلي القدير أن يوفقنا جميعا لما فيه الخير والصلاح، وأن يديم على دولنا وشعوبنا نعم الأمن والأمان والاستقرار والازدهار. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we're joined by our distinguished guest, the academic and political analyst, Dr. Fahd Al-Mikrad. Dr. Fahd, thank you for taking the time to join us and share your insights.
Most welcome.
Let's begin with our first question. How does the opening speech of His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Mashal Ahmed Al-Jabr Al-Sabah, may Allah bless and protect him, reflect Kuwait's role in fostering unity and collaboration among the GCC states, particularly in the light of the current regional challenges?
Yes. His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Mashal Ahmed Al-Sabah, he was very clear in his speech. It was very comprehensive speech, and he took the important issues which lead to more security to the region, peace and security. So it was very clear-cut in his speech, direct to the international media, that the GCC countries stick on the peace and security toward, Palestine. And he was very clear in the mandate of the Palestinian independent state since 1967, and the solutions of the two states. For this reason, he was very clear to the leaders, because he wanted to give indications that Palestine is an important issue. As usual, for GCC, Palestinian issue is very important, as well as situation in Lebanon and situation in Syria and in the Middle East as a whole.
So you're saying that there was no ambiguity in his message. It was a very direct and
was very clear
message.
cut, in his speech, His Highness the Emir, that the solutions for the independent Palestinian state and the GCC, of course, they want to see that in reality, not in the paper. So I think he gave indications what the GCC want to see. As you know, GCC countries, they have one vision and one goals, and one missions.
A shared vision.
It's sharing of this, because the foreign policy, if we follow up the GCC policy and in foreign affairs, you find very coordinated foreign policy among the GCC countries. And the Emir was very clear that the summit before in Saudi Arabia, for Islamic summit and Arabic summit, a few weeks ago in Riyadh.
November,
Yes, November. He was very clear in Saudi Arabia. This is a continuity of what has been said in the summit of Islamic summit and in Arabic summit, which both took place last November in the capital of Saudi Arabia, Riyadh. So he was very clear about that.
And this further shows the cooperation beyond just the GCC summit. There's a unity among the member states.
Exactly.
Even without this council.
Exactly. It's continuity of foreign policy among the GCC countries. There is one goal that they want to establish for the region. Security and peace is the main issues for stability. And that's why they say the solutions is to get recognition, Palestinian state among all international community.
And once we have this sense of security and stability, we can flourish economically, developmentally.
Exactly. There will be progress, will be productivity high in economics. And remember, politics and economics
are tied
together. They're completing each other. If the economy is not in healthy way, the politics will have conflict of interest.
There can be higher tensions.
Higher tension and conflict of interest among nations. Therefore, stability in the economics level is very important for politics to get cooperation among nations.
Now, that said, Dr. Fahd, how significant is Kuwait's hosting of the 45th GCC summit in reinforcing Kuwait's role as a mediator in unifying the actions of the Gulf Cooperation Council member states?
Yes. If we go back, several years ago, Kuwait took the important role among GCC countries. Even if there is a little bit of disagreement among the leaders, Kuwait always tried to be the mediator among them, among the GCC countries. And Kuwait was very successful in trying to make the GCC tied together. Therefore, that's why the foreign policy issue is very coordinated issue among the GCC countries. So I think, Kuwait as a role in the international arena, Kuwait always tried to be in the middle among nations and trying to do the best for nations. And GCC countries is, if we see the map, they complete each other, even geographical and strategical. You can see, the far point of the GCC countries as one region in completing each other in
Yes.
economics and politics and sociology, relatives here and there.
We're very closely tied.
Very close.
Language, culture,
Languages, cultural,
religion.
regional, yeah. So
And having the GCC Council only further cements this close tie between the member states.
yes, Kuwait also play important role in establishing the GCC country during Sheikh Jabir al-Ahmed al-Sabah and King Fahd of Saudi Arabia. Sheikh Zayed.
They initiated this cooperation.
Exactly in 1980s. At that time, the Russian or what they call it, Soviet Union influence in that region, plus the war between Iran and Iraq at that time, which is said 8 years fighting between Iran, Iraq, and influence the region. Plus, the Iraqi invasion to Kuwait at that time in 1990s. So I think the GCC is very clear to seek stability and security in the region, and that's why the summit, every summit we see it among the GCC countries, always very fix important corners of issues. They all agree upon that issues, which give a message to the international community that the GCC countries always seek stability if there is fairness for the solution of Palestinian issue.
There must be justice for their cause.
Exactly.
And I'm glad you mentioned the Iraq invasion, the Iran-Iraq war, because in both those, and among other examples, Kuwait played a role in, for example, the Iraq situation of hosting a conference to help rebuild Iraq. And when we had tensions in the Middle East, Kuwait played a mediation role to sort of cool the tensions and to bring everyone back to the negotiating table.
Exactly.
So do you see an emphasis, or rather a significance of this summit being in Kuwait, how Kuwait's role as the host could focus the summit's attention?
Remember that most summit, GCC countries, or even rebuilding Iraq would take place even in Kuwait. To rebuild Iraq after the war. Kuwait and GCC countries play important role to get stability, and they support Iraq. Although, the past regime destroyed Kuwait, and our brothers in the GCC countries, including Saudi Arabia, Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, all the region, they help Kuwait. And also the friendly nations, they help Kuwait to get back Kuwait, and this kind of issues is very important for us as a Kuwaiti, and playing a politically important role in the region. That's why we think that the summits bring the leaders together to clarify. Like, His Highness the Emir Sheikh Mishal Ahmed Sabah, he was very clear cut in his issues about Palestine, Lebanon, Iran as a neighbor. He was hoping that Iran will build good bridge with GCC countries and try to help the economies to more developed among neighborhood and then internationally. So that's why he emphasized in the GCC countries and in neighboring area as well.
Well, Dr. Fahd, we'll have to take a short break from our discussion and take a look at this report, but we'll return to continue our discussion here.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, in a final communique of the 45th GCC summit held in the state of Kuwait yesterday, the Arab Gulf leaders called for bolstering cooperation amongst the council members on all possible domains, as well as addressing numerous challenges facing the region. More details in this report. In a final communique of the 45th GCC summit held in Kuwait, Arab Gulf leaders call for bolstering cooperation among council members on all possible domains, as well as addressing numerous challenges facing the region. On the situation in the Gaza Strip, the final communique issued by the Supreme Council of the GCC condemned the Israeli occupation aggression on the Gaza Strip and the targeting of innocent civilians forced to be displaced and even killed if refusing to move. The Supreme Council called for an immediate ceasefire and the uninterrupted entry of humanitarian relief aid to the war-torn Palestinian region. On Lebanon, the Supreme Council welcomed the 60-day ceasefire agreement, expressing hope it would lead to an end to the conflict, Israel's withdrawal from Lebanese territories, the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701, and the return of displaced people. The Supreme Council reaffirmed its consistent support for Lebanon's sovereignty, security, and stability, emphasizing the importance of structural political and economic reforms to address Lebanon's crisis and prevent it from becoming a hub for terrorism or illicit activities threatening regional security. On Syria, the Supreme Council reaffirmed its steadfast stance on preserving Syria's territorial integrity, independence, and sovereignty, rejecting regional interference in its internal affairs. On Yemen, the Council reaffirmed support for Yemen's Presidential Leadership Council, led by Rashid al-Alimi, and its efforts to achieve stability and a comprehensive political resolution in line with the Gulf Initiative, National Dialogue Conference outcomes, and the UN Security Council Resolution No. 2216. On Iraq, the Supreme Council reaffirmed its steadfast positions and decisions regarding Iraq, emphasizing its support for efforts to achieve security and stability within the country. The Supreme Council urged all parties in Sudan to adhere to the agreement signed in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia on May 2023 regarding civilian protection and ceasefire arrangements, ensuring compliance with international humanitarian law. Meanwhile, on Libya, the Supreme Council reiterated its support for a Libyan-led political solution, adherence to UN Security Council resolutions, and the preservation of Libya's unity, security, and sovereignty. Furthermore, the Council called for intensifying efforts in energy transformation and climate change, bolstering efforts in this regard under the umbrella of the Green Middle East Initiative. The Council affirmed that it adopted the main pillars for social, economic, and environmental transformations through implementing accords such as the UAE COP28 agreement, which came out of the conference held in Dubai in 2023, as well as agreements which came out of the COP29, which was held in Baku, Azerbaijan. The Supreme Council approved the unified guidelines to empower individuals with special needs in the GCC, in addition to amendments on the unified system for insurance for Gulf citizens. The Supreme Council expressed appreciation of member states' efforts in anti-corruption, improving transparency via implementing governance on state-owned companies, in addition to providing media and awareness content of GCC anti-corruption organizations. The Supreme Council stressed the importance of stabilizing global energy economy, taking balanced policies that would not eliminate energy sources via innovation, reducing emissions, and leading to sustainable economic growth for all. The Council also lauded the member states' efforts in lowering pollution, recycling, and reusing materials, matters included in the Saudi Green Initiative, the Middle East Green Initiative, and national projects of each GCC member state. The Council approved the 21st Joint Defense Council's proposals for military integration among GCC countries, commending security and defense training in 2024. The Council approved the GCC anti-narcotic strategy for the years 2025 till 28, and formed a joint committee for such a task. On combating terrorism and extremism, the Council reaffirmed its consistent stance on rejecting terrorism and extremism in all its forms, regardless of the source, and condemned any justifications for such acts, and emphasized the need to cut off financing for terrorism and support international efforts to combat it, adding that terrorism is not linked to any religion, culture, nationality, or ethnicity. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue our discussion with our esteemed guest, Dr. Fahd Al-Mikrad. Dr. Al-Mikrad, how does the final communique of the 45th GCC Summit address the most pressing regional and international challenges?
Traditionally, the GCC Summit always have certain points that they have to emphasize on it. The Middle Eastern issue, which is the Palestinian state, supporting Lebanon, supporting Syria, trying to do the effort, humanitarian, healthy, caring about the brothers in Gaza, what happened for them. You know, traditionally the GCC countries always supporting, you know, in all aspects, health organizations, through humanitarian. So there is fixed politics and economics that GCC countries are trying to keep these issues in the outcome of the summit. They don't ignore, you know, of course, the Palestinian issues, the Syrian, the Lebanon. That's why they seek always stability and security. GCC, because they have good relationship with USA and Europe, they trying to convince these countries to get for Palestinian to help Gaza, for example, seek a ceasefire in Gaza. So they always in support. That's why the outcome summit always in favor of the Arab issues, and it's very important for them to return to their houses and helping them to rebuild their region.
As you've said earlier, the GCC final communique reiterates that we must provide humanitarian support as well as to end the conflict.
Exactly. They always emphasize in these important issues.
And as you mentioned, the GCC's relations with the West, such as the EU and America, we recently saw the GCC-EU summit.
Yes.
Could you share your thoughts on that summit?
You know, all the articles of United Nations, GCC always emphasize on them. And they encourage the international organization to, you know, to let these articles in practice, not just in written paper, you know.
Not just words, but
yes,
actual actions.
Not word. Must be action, as you said. Otherwise, the conflict will continue because the United Nations doesn't have strong teeth to stop all violations of all the articles of United Nations. So that's why, you know, the Israeli is still, or, you know, the occupied Israeli for Gaza and the West Bank, threatening the stability of Palestinian inland and in humanitarian. For this reason, they must try to comply with these regulations. All summit, GC summit, the outcomes of the summit matching with United Nations articles.
And their resolutions and actions,
yes,
therefore.
Exactly.
Now, in your view, what are the main outcomes of the summit that will reflect GCC cooperation, particularly in the areas of security and diplomacy?
You know, if we look back to all summit of GCC countries, there is fixed, you know, issues that they must
address.
Yeah, and must convince the USA, because United States of America is the powerful countries, and they have influence in the region. They have influence in Israel. You know, the tight relationship between USA and Israel, yes, and how much they can influence. They support them and weapons and everything,
and
militarily.
Economic support as well.
And economic support as well. So it is in the hand of USA. I don't want to say 90%, I want to say 60% of the influence of America in Israel. That's why the GCC country try to use their friendly relationship with USA to convince Israel to come on the table and agree for ceasefire, especially with Gaza. Gaza still now, they don't have ceasefire. So I hope that next step will be a ceasefire in Gaza, because GCC in their outcome of the summit emphasize this issue and must be stop the war in Palestine.
Now, earlier you were mentioning that politics and the economy are forever intertwined and tied together.
Yes.
The GCC as a united group has about, I believe, 2.3 trillion GDP.
Yes.
That is a lot of economic strength.
Yes.
So using the GCC's tools and diplomacy tied with this economic strength, do you believe that there can be, let's say, soft power or pressure applied on the international community to resolve?
Yeah, not only economic, but also soft diplomacy. As you know, GCC countries have good relationship with all countries in the world, east, west, wherever. They use it. And as I said earlier, that foreign policy of GCC, if you notice and follow up, Saudi Arabia, for example, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Oman, always they become a mediator for any influence through summit, through personal visit between the two states. They try to convince other countries. Look at Saudi Arabia, they become member of the G20,
Yes.
and they are trying to influence these countries that Palestinian is a very important issue. If there is a peace in the Middle East, that will help peace and security. So I think, the soft diplomacy with a strong economy play important role to keep, the region in secure and peace channels. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves, the wars in the region, right and left,
Mm-hmm.
That's why they emphasize also for Iran to have a good relationship with the GCC countries and build a good relationship with Iran, because, it's very close neighbor.
They're neighbors.
Yeah, and they have strong natural resources, and there is good exchange in the trade and commerce. So that will help a lot, They ask Iraq also to respect, the border with Kuwait,
Maritime borders.
especially in the port of, Mubarak al-Kabir,
Yes.
and, Abdullah. All these issues is important to bring stability and security for the region. Otherwise, if there is interfering from other neighbor state against GCC countries, normally GCC never, affect any bad channels with these neighborhoods,
Yeah.
while we are seeing influence from outside. So we hope this summit is giving, a message to the whole region and neighbors that GCC countries seek stability and security and must comply with the United Nations resolutions.
And one could argue that through our cooperation, ensuring regional stability, especially because of the geographic location,
Yes.
it's an important spot for world trade.
Of course, it's very important.
So what effect do you think further regional security would have on trade?
I think, military issues is not the solutions for every country.
Okay.
We see it in Gaza. Israel have the strongest instrument for military, and they couldn't do anything. Only they killing, women, children, all elder people, bombing houses and everywhere, schools and everywhere, But they don't reach the point that to feel secure in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Israel itself is not feeling security. It's give us a lesson that using military as a one try to do it against your neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's not the solution. The solution is to come to the round table and negotiate. Otherwise, it will not affect the situation.
Now, Dr. Fadel, we have to pause our discussion for a moment because we're going to take a short look at a phone call we've had earlier. We had spoken with the strategic expert, Mr. Khalid Salal, who highlighted some of the issues, including the unique contributions that the summit makes to advance security and diplomatic cooperation within the GCC, and the question of how can GCC countries reconcile their individual national priorities with a unified vision for regional progress. Here is what he had to say.
Over 4 decades, the Gulf Cooperation Council has contributed to achieving the vision of enhancing the stability and economic and social well-being of the GCC countries and strengthening ties between their people through various achievements, projects, initiatives, agreements, and memorandum of understanding in various fields like security and the joint and unified defense among them, Perhaps the most prominent of these achievements made by these summits is the establishment of the Peninsula Shield Forces, which later developed until became the Supreme Joint Defense Council, which is located in city of Riyadh, capital of Saudi Arabia, and contributed significantly to the liberation of Kuwait from the Iraqi occupation on Kuwait in 1990, and defense of the Saudi lands during that time. We must not forget what the Peninsula Shield Forces provided in stabilizing security in Bahrain in 2011. There is a unified diplomatic policy, which is commitment to the United Nations Charter and international laws, a balanced and moderate policy, non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries, thus the strategy in GCC countries, also good neighbor lines, and attempts to mediate to resolve regional and international disputes and conflicts. Among the political achievements of the Council is supporting the United Arab Emirates in its right to use all peaceful means to restore its three islands occupied by Iran since 1971. Among the military achievements is also the establishment of the Unified Maritime Operations Center to secure waterways and sea lanes and linked to the Air Force and Air Defense Operations Centers and joint exercises. This has led to achieving coordination, integration, and interconnection between member states in all fields. There are projects it will be come out from the next GCC summit in Kuwait, including the tourist visa platform project in the GCC countries and the project to link traffic systems and violations. This also a very important thing, which is unified Gulf strategy to combat drugs. In addition to another project, which is the digital transformation project and the development of security services and the unified Gulf strategy to combat money laundering crimes. The main objectives of establishing the Gulf Cooperation Council, as defined by the Council Statute, are to achieve coordination, integration, and interconnection between member states in all fields, strengthening ties between their peoples, establish similar systems in various economic, financial, commercial, customs, and transportation fields, and in educational, culture, social, health, media, tourism, legislative and administrative affairs, and drive scientific and technical progress in the fields of industry, agriculture, water, mining, resources, establish scientific research centers and joint projects, and encourage private sector cooperation. There is a unified vision that does not conflict with the goals and vision of the member states. This includes a unified vision for regional security and a unified vision for economic unity, as well as for food and water security, health services, educational, cultural, social and environmental services, all of which are consist with the member states.
The Gulf Cooperation Council has witnessed over the past 43 years major achievements in various fields that reflect the aspirations and commitment of the Gulf citizens and leaders in both regional and international arenas. Since the first GCC summit was held in Abu Dhabi in the year 1981, where the Council was established, The meetings contributed to strengthening the relations between all GCC countries and keeping pace with the rapid developments and the exchange of expertise and achieving the desired goals. Let's take a look at this next report for more details.
The Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, was established on May 25, 1981 in Abu Dhabi as a strategic framework to enhance political, economic and social integration among its member states, which are the State of Kuwait, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, State of Qatar, Kingdom of Bahrain and Sultanate of Oman. The Council aims to build a cohesive system capable of addressing regional and international challenges while achieving the aspirations of the Gulf populations for prosperity and stability. The GCC has held 44 summits to date, serving as a platform for discussing strategic issues and setting common priorities. These summits are crucial for exchanging views and consulting on key areas like security, economy and future projects. Kuwait will host the 45th Gulf Summit on December 1st at a critical time when member states need to strengthen unity to tackle pressing challenges such as food security, climate change and regional stability, while also driving economic cooperation. Key joint projects implemented by the GCC countries include Gulf Electricity Interconnection Project, an initiative aimed at enhancing energy stability in the region and reducing costs through a unified grid. Gulf Railway Project, an ambitious plan to connect Gulf capitals and cities through a modern transportation network that boosts trade, tourism and interconnectivity. Gulf Common Market, a step toward economic integration by facilitating the movement of capital and labor while also promoting intra-regional investments. Gulf Shield, a defense initiative that strengthens collective security and protects the interests of member states against any threats. Key achievements and joint initiatives. Sustainable development. The Council has launched environmental projects to reduce carbon emissions and transition to a green economy, aligning with each country's sustainability vision. Environmental initiatives. Member states collaborate to protect natural resources, enhance water security, and address environmental challenges like sandstorms and water scarcity. Health integration, establishing shared systems to combat diseases and improve disaster response. Through Vision 2030, the GCC countries strive to strengthen integration in technology and economy and foster innovation to position the Gulf as a global hub for clean technology and renewable energy. The Council faces challenges that require enhanced cooperation, including regional security, addressing external interference and security threats, economic diversification, reducing the dependency on oil by developing new sectors like tourism, industry and technology, climate change, tackling extreme weather events and committing to clean energy initiatives. On the other hand, global transformations present promising opportunities to enhance the Gulf's role in the global economy by attracting major investment and transforming the region into an economic and cultural hub. After more than 4 decades since its establishment, the Gulf Cooperation Council remains a leading example of regional cooperation. Its achievements and future aspirations reflect the determination of member states to realize ambitious visions, solidifying the Gulf's position as a vital region in the global order.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue our interview with Dr. Fahed Al-Makrad. Dr. Fahed, for our next question, we'd like to ask you, what role does the Gulf Summit play in shaping a cohesive GCC response to broader challenges such as climate change, technological advancements, and the global economic uncertainties?
Yes. The good about the summit is it's go for several areas. It's not just politics, economics, also, as you mentioned, the environment issues. It's very important. It's globally, the environment now become big issue, you know. Its influence all productions of agricultures. So to have a clean, environment, every nation seek that to get a clear and healthy environment, healthy air. And they don't ignore these issues, which is very important. And they have, a special summit worldwide that they, lately I think was in
Azerbaijan.
Baku,
yes.
They held a summit.
COP29.
Exactly,
yes.
Regarding the environment in general. So I think these important issues come to every summit. Locally or internationally, it's become very important how the world will look at this environment issues, how they can deal with it. It's need many treaties. For example, I remember in 6 years or 7 years, I did a book about the Kuwait agreement, internationally treatment between how many Kuwaiti agreement they signed treaty in environment. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they signed many treaty regarding environment issues, especially in Argentina. Kuwait participated in many summits regarding the environment issues. So it's very important because it's influence our health, influence our people, our neighborhood. So it is very, very big factors, vital factors. That's why the region is very, they want to take care of this kind of issues. And Kuwait really signed many treaties, for in health, regarding health.
Dr. Mikrada, I'll just ask you to hold that thought, and we'll come back to this question.
Sure.
But we must take a short break. We were also delighted to have the consultant, Mr. Jassim Khabazad, participate in this coverage with us. We spoke to him earlier, and he shared his insights on the forward-thinking strategies that the summit proposed to address pressing challenges such as energy transition. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Recent summits have proposed several forward-thinking strategies to address the challenges of the energy transition, focusing on technology, finance, and collaboration. A point which needs to be considered is innovation and technology. Events like the Minsk Energy Transition Summit emphasize the importance of technology in advancing the energy transition. Discussions foster green transformation and ensure a fair transition process that prioritizes social welfare and equality. Another point is sustainability and workforce, which makes policymakers and industry leaders at these events increasingly stress the need to align energy transitions with sustainable development goals. These strategies collectively aim to overcome obstacles like infrastructure limitations, energy demands surges, and uneven progress across region while fostering innovation and progression. Another point is the public-private partnership and financing. Summits that consistently highlight the role of innovative financing models to accelerate the energy shift. Public-private partnerships, venture, capital investments, and government subsidies are seen as critical for funding renewable energy infrastructure. The G20 summit, for instance, stressed mobilizing global resources to support equitable energy transitions and investing in sustainable infrastructure. There's a need for global cooperation and policy leaderships. Global forums such as the G20 advocate for international solidarity to address inequalities in energy access. These summits promote collaborative efforts between developed and developing nations to meet net zero goals and foster green transformation and ensure a fair transition process that prioritizes social welfare and equality among mutual interests. Thank you for inviting me, and good luck.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, we're reaching the end of our special live coverage for today. However, before we conclude with Dr. Al-Mirqad, we have one last final question for you, sir. In what way can the outcomes of this summit redefine Gulf cooperation to meet future regional and global demands?
I think we are very optimistic in seeing the GCC countries in future more closer to each other and more progress in economics and environment and all issues. And as you see, you know, the summit every 2 years they come and have held meetings, and which is reviewing, you know, what had happened in the last summit, compare it with the present summit, which is really a good circulation to find out what's our good, you know, what our strong points and what weak points, and we're trying to build it from there.
Almost like reviewing the progress of the GCC journey.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
Well, unfortunately, I believe that is all the time we have.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Fahd Al-Mirqad, the academic and political analyst. We appreciate you for your insight, your information, and of course your time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will wrap up tonight's coverage. We hope that this deep dive into the 45th GCC Summit has offered you an understanding of the years of cooperation as well as the achievements made by the great leaders and citizens of the member states. Today, it is clear that this gathering of Gulf leaders has reaffirmed the Council's enduring role as a cornerstone of regional stability and cooperation. The commitments outlined in the final communique highlighted a shared determination to tackle challenges through unified efforts and collective action. Throughout our coverage today, we delved into the key decisions and messages from the summit, examining their significance for the region's future. Our reports and phone calls shed light on the priorities set forth by the GCC leaders and the broader implications for the region's role on the global stage. The honorable speeches delivered by His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Mishal Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, and the GCC Secretary General Jassim Al-Badawi reflected the unity within the Arab states, rooted in the strength of collaboration and solidarity. As we end this coverage, we extend our gratitude and appreciation to our distinguished studio guest, Dr. Fahd Al-Mirqad, and his invaluable insights into the summit's outcomes and future implications. And of course, a special thank you to the crew behind the scenes for setting up the entire coverage. Thank you all for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you all next time.